Hi, everyone. Seems like I'm having some technical difficulties with my presentation. The good news is I can talk about this stuff in my sleep. So let me tell you just briefly about me, and then we'll get into omni-channel. So I'm Zavida Mangaru. I'm the head of product at Total Merchant Services. I spent the last 20 years of my career pioneering payment technologies at companies like American Express, MasterCard, and now Total Merchant Services. So many of you have heard about digital wallets. Well, I'm a patent owner of many of those digital wallet solutions, ones that you're quite familiar out in the marketplace. And that's just an example of pioneering technology and thinking ahead as to how does the market need to evolve, how does it impact the customer, how does it impact the merchant. And that will lend you into the topic that I'm speaking on today, so omni-channel. So it's not a new word. It's been out there for a while. Unfortunately, we haven't seen the traction in omni-channel. And that's actually one of the reasons one of the reasons why I moved over from MasterCard into the role that I have today at Total Merchant Services, is that on the consumer side, there are lots of companies that are putting attention and focus to the end user, the consumer. But then you've got the small business guys that are out there, guys and gals. They're trying to make a living. They're trying to become efficient. They're trying to figure out how they're going to play in this space of payments, starting their businesses, chasing their passion. Now, what does that mean? They're not going to survive. The face of retail is going to change. Products and services that are out there have to come out with solutions that make sense for small businesses. And I'm one of those people that I think about the end user. End user for me is twofold: the consumer and the merchant. And if I'm a merchant and I'm chasing my passion, I'm going to close this because it's a bit of a distraction and it's not working. If I'm an end user and I'm a merchant and I'm chasing my passion, I've got to think about the evolution in the marketplace. And what's happening is they're faced with the face of retail changing. They're faced with smart cities and smart planning. Locations that they thought that they can go and open up their businesses are being transformed because the landscape is changing. What do? They have to think about their passion and how they're going to make their passion survive. And that's where omni-channel takes on a more meaningful part of their conversation. And omni-channel, for me, and also for my peers, is thinking about creating products and solutions that will enable them to play in the digital age. So when we think about products and services, we're thinking about solutions that a merchant can use across multiple devices. Access is going to be incredibly important. It's no longer about being in a steady location. It's thinking about taking that business and making it mobile. Because if they're mobile, they're able to participate. If they're not mobile and they can't access their infrastructure, their inventory, they can't access information that's critical to their business, they're not able to participate. Participation comes in a couple of forms. How many of you have a smartphone in the room? Okay. What do you use a smartphone for? When you're shopping, what do? Do you pull out your smartphone? I do. So you pull out your smartphone for a couple of reasons. Where am I? Location. What's in the area? I search for price. I search for recommendation. If they're not part of that, they get left behind. Now, imagine Zavida consumer goes into that merchant location. First thing I do, I look at the item that I want, and I look at the price. I'm going to make a decision. Am I going to pay the price that that merchant has? And that decision comes in multiple forms. I'm going to look up on my phone the price that other merchants are selling that product for. Is it accessible? Can I return the product? Now, what does that mean? It's a decision for the merchant. Because the merchant now is faced with the customer saying, I'm not paying $200 for this. It becomes a negotiation. If the merchant doesn't have the ability to look up their buy rate for that item, they have the potential of losing that sale or losing out on that sale. What does that mean? Customer says, I'm willing to pay $150 because I can go up the block and get it for $150. The merchant that has access to information across multiple devices and access to their back end and their back end inventory management can go, all right, I bought it for $90, I marked it up to $200, I can sell it to her for this. I'll offer it to her for $140 because it's engagement, I've given her a deal and she's gonna come back. That's what survival is going to mean for small businesses. Now imagine, face of retail is changing. You've got pop-up stores happening everywhere. How many of you have seen the pop-up Amazon shops in big malls throughout the United States? So I was in New York City. I live actually in Two Coast, between LA and New York, so I travel back and forth quite a bit. And I was in New York 2 weeks ago, went through the mall because that's how I spend my time. I people watch and I see what's going on. And there's an Amazon pop-up shop at the center of the mall. And around the Amazon pop-up shop are tons of small businesses that occupy the real estate around that. Now, Amazon pop-up shop, locker room, products that are delivered to that location, customer comes, tries the product on, makes a decision whether or not they want to keep that product. What happens to those small businesses? No one goes to their store anymore. The attraction is not their store anymore. Now, they're omni-channel. They're able to put their products on Amazon, have their products shipped to those pop-up locations, and they can participate. They have a fighting chance. How do they do that? It's education. You've got to think about the small business and the survival in the next decade. Smart cities, smart planning. So as you travel throughout and you participate in these conversations about smart cars, driverless cars, smart cities, walkable cities, small businesses need to participate in that. How do they do that? They have to think about how their businesses are going to transform. Because if that's not part of their agenda and they're simply chasing their passions, they're going to be left out. And it's not just payments. Yes, I play in the payment space and that's what keeps the lights on, but they're experiences. So when we think about building products and services, it's got to be an engagement tool. When you take the product out of the box, you've got to simply take it out of the box, put it on the counter, and it's got to work. It's got to have loyalty. It's got to have a play to engage your customer. Because if you don't give me a reason to come back, and the next time I turn on my smartphone and I do geolocation in terms of the restaurants in the area or the boutique shops in the area, you're going to miss out on that. Products and services have to make sense. They have to be relevant. They have to be accessible. And we need to make sure that the tools that go out for small businesses, they're usable. How many of you have searched the web and when you've searched, you've got 1,000 search findings that come up, you're like, none of this is relevant. What do? You're frustrated. It's annoying. Now try being that small business owner that's new to this space and you don't know about SEO and you've got to figure it out. When we think about our lines of businesses and how we address the customers and how we sell to the customer, we've got to think about how do you position them for success? And positioning them is smart products and services so that they can compete. So when we think about loyalty, how many of you are inundated when you come into the office or you turn on your email? How many living social offers do you get? I get them for Botox all the time. For whatever reason, I come in and I'm spammed with Botox. I don't need it, but for whatever reason, I'm tagged with that. It's irrelevant. And when you think about small businesses and time and efficiencies, we've got to develop products and services that make sense for them, where it's easy for them to go into an offers platform. The UI is simple. So when we think about product development, you've got to develop products and services when you turn on that interface, and we were just talking about the importance of UI with Tim. You create a UI, user enters simple information, here's my offer, and when it hits that user's inbox, it's really what I want, and it's not the Botox offer that just makes me delete that email right away. When we talk about contactless, how many of you use your phone or your watch to pay? It's awesome. It's about half the room. Maybe it's skewed a little bit, about half the room. What's changing? How we pay and how we behave is contactless. And when we think about products and services, we have to enable, again, my focus is small business, so I talk about these guys, I'm extremely passionate about them, is payments have changed. The marketplace is totally disrupted. You've got players like Apple and Samsung, you've got EMV, you've got every form of payments that are disrupting how consumers behave. Guess who's dictating how we pay? Is it the merchants? Is it the bank? Or is it the customer? Who do you guys think is dictating that? Everybody that raised their hand in here, you are. When you go, I'm out for a run. I don't carry a wallet, I have my watch. I'm done with my run and I want to pay for my coffee. I go to the merchant and the merchant has no choice but to decide whether or not they're going to accept contactless through my watch. The consumers are dictating that, and merchants need the ability to compete with that because they're no longer in the driver's seat where they say, oh, I only accept these forms of payments, or I can only offer you this level of information because that's all I have access to. Customers want more. And that's where omni-channel plays an important role. There's omni-channel from a consumer perspective. It's utility of technology and information and devices that I have access to. And omni-channel from a merchant perspective is I've got to change my behavior. I need to be mobile. And when I'm mobile, mobile is within my store. I'll give you an example. So I walked into a small restaurant because I believe in supporting small businesses. And the most value that I get out of that engagement is when the restaurateur or the chef comes over and has a conversation with me. And when they do that, now imagine they now have smart devices that they come over. It's no longer just bringing a menu and opening up and showing you what's on the menu. They're actually bringing over tablets. They're going through the wine list. They're giving you an experience. That's omni-channel. And when we talk about building products and services, we've got to think about that in mind. Now imagine that same chef, restaurateur, there's a pop-up restaurant that's there in Venice Beach. What needs to happen? They need to be mobile. They need to have access to the same information that they were offering in their shop. They need to deliver on the same experience. It's omni-channel. That's why I started out my talk with going, well, what's really omni-channel? Because I've been in this business in a long time, and when I hear omni-channel, I think about a couple of things that come in mind. But omni-channel, the shift in retail, the transformation that's happening in payments, and the need for everyone else to catch up. And everyone else is those businesses that oftentimes get left behind. Now, NFC, we talked about using your phone, we talked about using your watch. It's all exciting. Do you think it's hard? Do you think it's hard for customers to understand how that works? I'm nodding my head because I spend my day trying to figure out how do you educate merchants, how do you educate the customer. It's really hard because you've got a segment of the population that knows that they have a smartphone and they can tap and pay, they can dip, they can swipe. But then you have a merchant, small mom and pop shop, customer walks in, they don't understand what to do. Education. So if omni-channel is going to be successful and if small businesses are going to be successful, we need to educate them. We need to educate them with our words, we need to educate them with our processes, and we need to educate them with our know-how. And know-how is simplicity. It's a user experience that's winning. It's that user experience that's going to be an edge, and it's developing products and services that are relevant. That's omni-channel. Any questions? I can talk forever on this, but I'm going to make sure the room participates in that. So how do you think from your businesses, you're all sitting here, you're here for a reason, how do you think you're going to play in omni-channel? So you guys probably recognize the change, food trucks. There are hundreds, if not thousands of them that are competing with restaurant for space. That started to disrupt that. Now we've got restaurants that are competing with food trucks. Now order ahead comes into play. I can now order ahead and I can go pick up to the food truck and forget the restaurant that's paying thousands of dollars for that location. It's behaviors that are building. And as long as we understand the behaviors that are happening, we'll be able to participate and we'll be able to help those companies participate. Anybody interested in the smart car scenario? I am extremely interested in that because it's going to change how we as consumers behave and it's going to change how businesses operate. They're going to rely on other sources for engaging that customer. So that when we talk about smart card technology, we're seeing it today. I'm okay to get into a smart car. I'm okay for it to be driverless, but I want an experience out of it. Because today I drive, I've got my radio going, depending what type of atmosphere I'm looking for, but I also now will have that time replaced with something else. And depending what your interest is, there are companies and businesses around that can contribute to that experience. You want to participate in that. You want to be part of the smart planning. You want to be one of those merchants, those resellers. You want to be in the smart committee because it's survival. Because when the change happens, it's not just going to it's not going to be like turning off the lights and turning it back on. It's happening as we speak right now. You see kiosks throughout the airports. You see it in central locations. Now all of a sudden those are smart devices that you thought, oh, that was just a kiosk, I'm not doing anything. I don't need to participate in the mall layout and the floor selection and the audio that goes along with it that talks about my products and my services. You got to get on board now. And it's smart thinking, and it's helping your businesses decide how they're going to play with that. Does everybody have a smartwatch? No smartwatches in the room? Come on! Okay, what's the problem with that? So I don't have mine on. The issue that I had this morning with mine is traveling across coast. It has a hard time keeping up with me, and it's dead. Do you think you're going to pay with your smartwatch forever? No. We've seen the adoption of smartwatch sales, right? We know where that's going. You think it's going to be your phones? Think it could be your shoe? Yeah. It's going to be things like that. So when we talk about merchants and we talk about small businesses and helping them think ahead, it's how do I play in that? How do I participate? It goes back to education. I need to understand it first. If I understand it and I can help the thousands and thousands of merchants that I interact with on a daily basis, they have a chance to survive, and I'm part of the play. And I hope you're all thinking about being part of the play and smart planning and survival as technology continues to disrupt. It's my talk in omni-channel. Thanks for your time.